Okay. So are you guys getting any kind of like feedback, weird feedback vibration?
No, it sounds okay.
Okay, good. We'll see. Sometimes the phone picks up better than the microphone on the laptop.
Yeah, I wonder as other members speak if you're going to have to move the phone around to them somehow.
Right, or just repeat everything they say.
I don't know if that would be, well, you guys are meeting in public, so it's not a sunshine issue, right?
All right, so I'm going to set the laptop here. And Rita, you had a question? Yes, so there's a question about appointments, and the 4 board members that had been members were reappointed, and we have 3 new members, and I see Cassandra Tucci, who also goes by Zahira, is here on the laptop. You want to say hello?
The other Cassandra and I figured it would be easier for me to use my other name, so we only have one. So I'll be Zahira.
Welcome. Cassandra also goes by Zahira. Am I saying it right?
Yes, you got it.
Okay, awesome. And then we also have Brittany Coleman, one of our program managers. She is on Zoom. Tom Tonkovich, our Assistant Department Director of Community Support Services. And Courtney Wilson, who's the legal staff liaison for the County Attorney's Office, is also on Zoom. And here in the meeting, we have Robert Edelman, Maddie Coy, Miriam Berg, Rita Lawrence, Sri Joshi, and Cassandra Moore, and myself, Laura Colt. So I know a lot of times we start off with introductions, but I don't know if that is going to be just so awkward that we might skip it this time. But we can continue to get to know each other in the months to come. So we'll kind of probably move pretty quickly. Yeah, so we do have a quorum here in person, so we're good to go. There are the 3 minutes from the last 3 meetings. I assumed that even though we didn't have a quorum at some of the meetings, that it would still be needed to approve them. So.
I have a question about quorum. Do people on Zoom count to the quorum or only in person?
Right now, only the folks in person count towards the quorum.
Gotcha, thank you.
Pete, just to clarify though, I'm not sure Zahira's question. Members on Zoom can vote though, can participate in discussion and voting. It's just for there to be a legitimate meeting, there has to be an in-person quorum. So as a member, Zuri, you can discuss and you can vote.
Anybody have any questions about the minutes or anything? I did cross out the August at the top. The folks that are here in the meeting in person, the October minutes say, I think, August at the top. So there was that needed to be corrected. So we got Rita made a motion to approve the minutes and Maddie seconded. Okay. So I was going to give a kind of quick overview of member responsibilities. Folks that have been on the board know these, but kind of the big thing, of course, is the attendance part of it. I was looking back over the board responsibilities that the county publishes, and from what I read, and Tom and Courtney, if I'm getting this wrong, please correct me, but 3 absences in a row or more than 3 absences for the year would be an automatic removal. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's usually, okay, can you grab that? I think the attendance can be an issue. Of course, it's, you know, I feel like it's just such a strange time right now where things can change quickly, and you might have every intention to come in person and then you don't feel well, or you find out somebody in your household's not feeling well. And so, you know, I definitely want folks to stay home if they don't feel well. If we don't have a quorum, we don't have a quorum, and we can always, I've gained so much from sometimes when we don't have a quorum and I just get to throw stuff at you guys and say, what do you think about this? Because we don't end up really covering the regular agenda items. So that's my thoughts about attendance, but it is important. And let's see, so our meetings are always the 3rd Thursday of the month at 5:30. There's been a few times we've switched, but that's been really consistent. So I just say, you know, put it on your calendar and have it there. I'll let you know if it gets canceled for some reason. But generally we don't try to switch that around, and we stay consistent with the 3rd Thursday of the month at 5:30. And we meet here in the Health Department auditorium unless this space is being used. And I think it works fine. It would be interesting if we had, I guess, 4 other members, because with Commissioner Alford, that would make 8 members potentially. So, you know, we would have to kind of move things around, but obviously the room's large enough. So I am the staff liaison. So I'm the director here at Victim Services. I'm the main staff liaison. So you'll mainly get emails from me when it comes to agenda or minutes or things like that, but you could get emails from Cassandra Moore, Brittany Coleman, Shri Doshi is also helping. She's our intern. And there could be other staff members. So, but generally they're going to come from me, and I am supposed to blind copy when I email. So you'll see that you'll just, you know, see an email from me. I might have other staff that you can see their names, but you won't see the other members' names. And that's just, it cuts down on the possibility of us having a violation of the Sunshine Law. So that's another important topic that comes to some of the member responsibilities, is we all have to follow the Sunshine Law rules, or the Sunshine Law, which essentially for this advisory board, since it is considered a government board or council, you all have to follow the Sunshine Law, which means that, you know, any discussions have to be at a public meeting. So discussions that relate to the topics that we're going to cover in the meeting. So of course, if you see somebody at Publix and you want to say hello and catch up on how they're doing, and that's wonderful. And I think people have become friends who work on the advisory board together, and that's great. It's just that you can't talk, you're supposed to not talk about topics that are going to be discussed at the meeting, so that if, especially anything that's going to be voted on, you wouldn't want to say, hey, you know, I really think we should do this, that, and the other about this issue. And, you know, what do you think? And avoid those types of conversations for sure. And I don't know if Courtney, you want to say anything about it?
Yes, and I apologize. I'm under the weather, so my voice is a little hoarse, and I'm definitely not presentable for consumption right now. But Laura, I was thinking, and I apologize. I should have brought this up before the meeting. But I would be happy to prepare a little presentation if our new members would like that, either before our next meeting or at the beginning of our next meeting, or I'd be happy to meet with them individually and just go through. You've done a great job kind of hitting the high points, but there's a couple of other nuancy things that they should know too, that it's certainly the big thing is running into someone at Publix and having a casual conversation, but this would also include emails, social media posts, things like that. So I promise not to lawyer it to death and make a long presentation, but I'd be happy to put something together on Sunshine and public records, if that would be helpful to our new members and our old members too, if anyone just kind of wants a refresher.
I think that sounds great myself. I mean, if that's not too much out of your time to do, Courtney.
No, I would be happy to do that. Just let me know when you want to schedule that, and I'll be ready to go.
Okay, I know we have a presentation in March. I mean, I'm kind of wondering, do you know, how long do you think it would take?
I could probably do it in 30 minutes. If there's a lot of questions, it might take a little bit longer, but I could do hit the high points of public records and Sunshine in 30 minutes.
Well, let's maybe table the exact time of when that'll happen. But I like that idea. I think every time I hear it talked about, I go, oh yeah, okay. I remember something more, or I connect it better to the work that we do. So I think would be helpful. And I see that Commissioner Alford also joins the meeting. Sorry if you were waiting there for a little bit to get in. Let me see. Might have to unmute you.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I waited a little while. I just was emailing you to see if I had the time wrong. Sorry about that.
No. Sorry to keep you waiting. Trying to multitask here. We kind of ended up switching roles of who was going to work the computer. But anyhow, you're in, and we're glad to see you. We do have a quorum. We do have 4 members here in person, so we have a quorum, and we can continue. We were just kind of talking a little bit about member responsibilities. We have 3 new members who were appointed to the board, so I was kind of just touching on some of the basics. But it's good to meet you, and definitely want you to join in and participate as much as you would like during the meeting.
Thank you so much. It's an important issue to me personally. Thank you.
Here. So we talked about the sunshine laws. I think the other thing I wanted to mention is that generally there's about 4 or 5 tasks with every meeting. We go back and we approve the minutes from the last meeting, discuss new business, discuss old business, subcommittee reports, and there can be time for announcements. Generally, I think they want us to stay on topic of what we're here to talk about. After the meeting closes, I know sometimes people will want to make others aware about an event that they're taking part in that's coming up or something like that. So there can be a time for announcement at the very end, but that's kind of a general overview of what meeting agenda looks like. And then every year there are a couple of things that, according to the bylaws, the advisory council is supposed to do. So, and I think we mainly do this. I know last year was kind of weird with COVID, but once a quarter, the board reviews the center's budget and takes a look at that, asks questions. and that's a requirement of the state since we're a certified rape crisis center. That's actually how we ended up with an advisory board, is that the state says that any certified rape crisis centers that are a government agency have to have a citizen advisory board. So the other requirement is that we have the board members review our budget once a quarter. The other task is to create an annual work plan, and it's kind of looking back at the year at what's been done, and then looking ahead for the next year of what you'd like to do. And when I looked over the bylaws, I was like, okay, so there's also supposed to be an annual review of the center that the board does, and make 2 reports to the Board of County Commissioners. One is supposed to be the work plan, which we've always kind of done. It's at the very least kind of submit that through the agenda process. And so at the very least, the county commissioners end up looking at the work plan. Sometimes that's been done in person, but the other is to have a presentation, at least one presentation a year to the commission is actually in the bylaws. So, you know, sometimes we get focused on activities that we're all working on, or the board's helping with and we're working on, and we don't kind of review the bylaws, and it's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So I do encourage everybody to look at the bylaws, and if you see stuff in there, you know, some of it's just very general, like large goals, and so if you have ideas of how to implement or how to really operationalize, I guess, or create some tasks out of those, I mean, that would be discussion within the advisory board to decide what you might want to do. So I'm the staff liaison, and I'm ended up, you know, kind of talking more than I probably will at future meetings, because really the next thing that needs to happen, since we have a new group, and I know that not all of our new members have been able to join us, but we do want to vote on a chair, or I guess that's for you guys to decide. But currently the board doesn't have a chair, and you guys have been doing great with sharing that responsibility. So I will put it to you. What would you all like to do? I know you all probably can't hear everything that's being discussed, but there's a little bit of chatter about how this might work. So I can repeat information if needed.
So Marianne, you were just saying October 15th, and I hope you will be more successful. Like you tell us in the minutes. So you're not wanting to chair again?
Well, I don't know. No, that's not true. I just thought this would be a wonderful opportunity.
How about we flip a coin? As a chair.
Well, we could, I mean, I don't know if we could do a chair.
Right. So the discussion that's going on is there's some hesitation with the members that are here, who all happen to have, you know, been on the board for a while. But let me also share the responsibilities of the chair. The chair essentially facilitates this meeting and then helps me create the agenda every month, you know, to figure out, okay, we talked about, you know, like last month we talked about the human trafficking ordinance. Let's make sure to keep that on the agenda so it gets picked up, you know, at the next meeting, that kind of thing. But otherwise, not really a lot to do, but it is a responsibility, and you want to make sure that you're able to attend meetings and have a sense that you'll be able to be here and feel comfortable. We tend to be an informal group, you know. Definitely there's the voting and stuff that happens as it's supposed to, but I wouldn't worry. So if Cassandra, you as a new member are considering the idea of taking on some additional responsibility, it's not, no one here is going to say, oh, you didn't say that correctly. You got to, put the motion forward in a correct format. We definitely follow the rules, like I said, but it's really no pressure kind of group. So I encourage new members to think about it too.
What if we do eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
Do you have any interest, Cassandra? Cassandra, is there?
I'm happy to try. I've definitely watched a lot of board meetings and been in a lot of board meetings and kind of understand how it goes, and lots of Zoom board meetings this year, and call an order, get a second, or call a motion, get a second. I can try, but I'd like a couple months under my belt maybe before then, if possible. But it's okay if not.
We'll be very supportive.
There's no hazing. No hazing. No hazing allowed.
So they're saying they will be incredibly supportive, and there won't be any hazing or anything like that goes on. No viral meetings are going to happen.
All right, I'm down if y'all are. We'll try it.
There's an applause here.
Not this one, I hope.
Okay. Yes, there needs to be a vote about this. Are you sure you're ready to throw your hat in? I feel like
give the people who aren't here an opportunity, or I guess it can be changed at any time.
Can I ask a question?
Well, yeah. So in October is when it gets to a vote again. Every October, a new chair gets assigned. Yes, Commissioner Alford.
Is there, if Cassandra is uncomfortable, I've known some boards that have co-chairs, so they sort of share responsibility. I don't know if that's an option.
I don't have a copy of the resolution in front of me, but it might speak to that because it might call for a chair and a vice chair.
Which is sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think, yeah, let's take a quick look because that could help too.
And such other officers as the advisory council deems necessary to receive.
I know. Rita, you're good.
I don't mind okay.
I was just looking, so you found that in the bylaws. What about the resolution? So the resolution 0643.
Oh, okay, I'm the right one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it says the same. So it says the advisory council shall elect one of its members as chair and such other officers as the advisory council deems necessary to meet its needs. Does that sound like chair, co-chair?
That gives you enough leeway, absolutely, there to have co-chairs.
All right. Who's our next person? Okay, yeah.
Okay, I will make a motion to nominate, I don't know her name, Cassandra.
Zahira Tucci. Is it Tucci or Tucci?
First one, Tucci, like a CH.
Tucci.
And Rita had questions. Is it all in one motion?
I think so. They can do that in one motion, right? Nominate both the co-chairs in one motion?
Yes.
So Marianne has made a motion to nominate Zahira and Rita as, and we're using both names, so Cassandra Zahira Tucci and Rita Lawrence as co-chairs.
In favor? Yes.
Yes.
And Zahira just said yes also. So I think we have co-chairs.
All right. How fun.
One for good. Thank you. Woo! Now, who wants to chair the rest of the meeting?
I'll chair the agenda item. What things will we can process today for this meeting? And one thing that I just wanted to get an update on was the ordinance and the sign and whatever the thing of that.
So, yeah, I don't know if you all could hear that, but Robert was asking for an update about the human trafficking ordinance. So I don't know if Courtney or I can give an update, whoever.
Whatever you prefer, I'm happy to speak to it if you want to, or if you want to, that's fine.
Would you? I feel
Sure.
like I have a better grasp of it, but yeah, thanks.
Sure, no problem. We actually had a meeting today, Laura, Tom, and I, with some of our code enforcement supervisors and officers. So it seems to be that the timing of when we put together the human trafficking ordinance unfortunately coincided with COVID almost exactly. And so right before COVID started, our code enforcement division was out distributing some of the flyers that are, and I'm sorry, I should back up because we do have new members here. The county last year did adopt a human trafficking ordinance, which requires certain businesses located in the county, mostly sex shop type businesses, adult entertainment businesses, to have a poster conspicuously located on the premises warning about human trafficking, providing information on that. And then there is a penalty associated if those businesses do not hang these posters. And so the board last month, I apologize, had asked kind of what the status was, where we were with getting those flyers distributed, if we were getting good compliance in the county. So like I said, right as COVID was starting, they were out there distributing the flyers, but then code enforcement was kind of, for a while, everyone was at home, and then code enforcement obviously was working on enforcing the county's mask ordinance and some other COVID related things. So they have committed that they're going to start printing those flyers again and make a real push and effort to get those businesses that are currently listed in our ordinance the flyers and the information they need about posting that. We did note Laura and Tom, when they were kind of looking at it, there was a few things that we thought might be deficient in the ordinance. And in talking with code enforcement today, I think we came up with some good ideas and ways we think that we can strengthen this to make sure that we're getting our message out there, we're getting good compliance, and that there's a system in place for that. And so that Laura and Tom can work closely with code enforcement. And so we expect to be bringing that back to you all to look at, and then hopefully bring it back to the commission soon to get their take on it. So kind of the substance of it won't change. We obviously still think this is very important, but we'd like to see a little bit more structure to provide maybe a warning system when people are out of compliance instead of going straight to a fine. Also maybe provide some education to those businesses, and also look into maybe expanding which businesses are included in who receive the flyers. And so I think that Laura and Tom, also as part of this, have a lot of great information, obviously, in their staffs. And so they want to work closely with code enforcement so that not only are code enforcement enforcing this human trafficking ordinance with regards to the flyers and the posters, but are also helping train our code enforcement officers so they know what they're looking for in other businesses, even ones that maybe don't require the flyer, but that code enforcement knows what they're looking for out there, and can work closely with law enforcement in this group. But we'd love your thoughts and on that too.
Yeah, I think code enforcement wants to think about just kind of how they will enforce it, or what consequences will be. That was kind of an area, looking at it more closely with them. I think that we all realized from their point of view, they're trying to figure out what is the violation, what is that going to result in for the business. So that's maybe getting into some of the specifics at a later time as code thinks it through and talks a little bit more with Courtney in her office too. Commissioner Alford, you wanted to say something or ask? Oh wait, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. I'm curious about why it was why sex shops were sort of singled out. It seems like most of the when I read about somebody turning in somebody for being suspect for trafficking, it's at a rest stop or a gas station or a fast food place or a Walmart. So why are we not putting signs up in like restrooms in those locations, out of curiosity?
Commissioner Alford. Sorry, go right ahead.
Oh, I will say that was discussed. I know that the Department of Transportation is required to basically enforce a similar ordinance at rest stops. But we agreed though that we saw a lot of other businesses where trafficking could be going on, hotel, and even just other businesses where people who are being trafficked may pass through, like hotels and gas stations and lots of so I know there was a lot of discussion about that, and I don't know if, like, ultimately we just kind of relied on the ordinance as it came to us from Palm Beach County. So to give you a little bit of the background, Palm Beach County contacted counties around Florida and encouraged us to put this ordinance in place like they had, and they sent us the ordinance, and I think we really kind of stuck with their ordinance as they had created it. But I don't know if other members have ideas of, ultimately we thought, or maybe it was also some of the Courtney, your predecessor, I think also kind of said, well, we want to be careful of expanding it too far. I know there was a lot of questions you all had asked about that, like why can't we have it required to hang in all of these other locations too? And the sense was that if we make it too broad, it would be so hard to enforce possibly. I don't know if anybody else recalls what some of the discussions were.
Some original state, I know they don't have, I don't know if there was a state provision that allowed counties to do this, but I think there was some kind of statewide provisions of law as well, and we were using that as the structure for what we were creating.
I think you're right, Rita. Were you able to hear what Rita Lawrence said?
I heard something about statewide initiatives, maybe.
Right, and Tom, you have your hand up too. Maybe you're trying to say what Rita's trying to say.
I'm not sure what Rita said, and I'm not qualified to say this, so I'll defer to Courtney, but I believe it's because the Florida statute permitted local counties to adopt an ordinance like this, and that Florida statute limited it to these types of establishments. But I'll defer to Courtney on the statutory language.
Yes, I would like to do some more research to see if we can expand it somewhat. But yes, we're going to be somewhat limited, and there is a state statute that provides for these human trafficking posters. They're obviously a little different than ours, with certain healthcare providers, and so that's why that's excluded on ours. So yes, that's one of the things we discussed today, that I'd like to do a little bit more research on how we can and can't expand it. But yes, there is state law on healthcare professionals and what they have to sign. So that wouldn't be under our regulations.
Courtney, do you have the contacts in Palm Beach County to ask if they have noticed any, if they've changed their ordinance or seen any need to expand it, or if they've had any success with it? It seems like benchmarking would, since it's been a year, might be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And since they've been kind of the front runners on this, they might be keeping in touch with other jurisdictions. So they might be able to tell us what they've done, and that if they've heard anything from anyone else as well.
Can you or someone tell me a little more about what is on the flyers? Is this like education for the public about what to look for, signs of human trafficking? Is this for the employees? Is it for both? Is this in the public area of the business, or in the back, like where the labor laws are? Just more on that.
It's supposed to be posted in a conspicuous location. But I am happy to pull up a copy of our poster, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, or if you can email it to me or something, just so I can see, or if screen share, whatever, that's awesome.
Sure.
The actual language is on page 3, starting on line 16. So, this is what's on the poster.
Oh, okay. And I think if Courtney, if you can pull up that poster and share that, I just made it so you could share. Oh, great. Yeah.
Sorry, let me change this size so that maybe people can see a little bit better. Yeah.
I imagine we have it printed, or are we printing it in other languages?
So the poster we went with has English and Spanish on the one poster, and that is the only version that we currently have.
I knew we talked about that earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry, I stopped screen sharing, but I can do that again.
Another question, is the poster available to any business that might want to voluntarily post it?
I don't know if that's currently been offered. I know we haven't from our center, but that's a good idea too, to just even see if businesses would be willing to.
For some of our partners, like rural
Health projects. Mm-hmm. And Rita was, I think, getting at the same thing you were saying, Tom, is that she thought there was something in Florida statutes that was allowing counties to make this ordinance, that it tied to some Florida statute. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what Courtney's going to look at. I kind of understood the conversation we had before with that this was legislation. You know, normally it seems like the legislature tells counties what they can't do. But in this case, they told us what we could do. And I think it was prompted by the legislative delegation down in Palm Beach. I think they took the leadership on it with the state. So, but we can let Courtney research that. And Courtney, if you need any help with the research, just give me a shout.
Yeah,
I'll do
will do.
what
Thank
I
you.
can. Mhm.
This is kind of an aside, but are the code enforcement folks, do they have a little bit of knowledge about what to look for themselves if they go into these places and might be suspicious? Or is that possible? Or
Yes, I do know that when we spoke with Mr. Frazier today, who's one of the supervisors, that he's been involved in some training, and he sent over he said he provided, I don't know if I would say training, but has been speaking to his employees about this. He's provided now the training materials that he has to Laura and Tom, so they can take a look at them and see if they're kind of where they need to be, if it's current information. And then I think there'll be an exchange of ideas there to make sure that our code enforcement officers really get the training that they need. Our code enforcement right now is kind of under a new shift and kind of new umbrella, and they're going to be going through a lot of cross training and new training. And so I think we're coming in at a good time to make sure that they have all these resources available to them.
I think Rita had a comment also.
My comment was, I wondered if in checking with some of the law enforcement partners, we might find out exactly, are there other languages we should be thinking about this for? Because I just recall a huge human trafficking case that involved a lot of people of Haitian heritage. And are we missing anywhere else? Some of the sex trafficking in the South Carolina, maybe that's another language we need to think about. And maybe our law enforcement might have some clues from their experience in cases they've dealt with that could point us in the right direction. Maybe clear. That would be
Yeah, so Rita's suggestion, in case you didn't hear that, was to talk with our law enforcement partners, and Maddie just suggested an agency in town that works with human trafficking survivors, but asking some of the other organizations if they have, if they would have suggestions for other languages for the flyers to be printed in based on, their experience.
And Laura, I just shared this on the screen, and I can send this to you and Tom, and we can talk. This is the information about the Department of Transportation and where they post their signs. And then if you look down here at the bottom, it says that the County Commission may adopt an ordinance to enforce subsection 3. And if you follow that, that's where we get the strip club or their adult entertainment establishments.
I'm with Mary. I don't understand why any business would be left out. Like anyone, anywhere can be trafficked from anywhere, any possible, every restaurant, bar, store should have these. So I'd love to expand if possible.
Right. Well, and we can look and see what our possibilities are here. This does say that the Department of Transportation is responsible for putting these in rest areas, turnpike service plazas, wait stations, airport, rail stations, and welcome centers. And the emergency rooms need to post public awareness signs.
The biggest trafficking case that I know of in Gainesville involved an Asian restaurant where they had locked, I don't know, something like 12 employees up and kept them there for ages. That was some years ago.
Right. And I think too, Marianne, you wanted to add something.
That certain places like porn shops or whatever, and be fined for not putting them
and offering them in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that distribute them widely.
Right, right. So getting at that idea of try to distribute it as broadly as possible, and then at the very least doing that, but it could be, you know, technically a bit harder for codes to enforce it so broadly, if, you know, for violations. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't distribute it wherever we want, the poster.
Right. For sure.
Knowing that the average age in Florida of young girls who get into sex trafficking is 12, when you know, like talk to the health department, schools, you know.
Right. So just the idea of even targeting teens, because the average age for entry into sex trafficking in Florida, you said, is 12 years old. So knowing that if we're going to think about distributing it out, think too about locations where young teens and teens would be able to see it.
So there's a lot of things that I'd like to do is one is possibly changing the sign and on each Disney Creole they have signs there as well. I think realistically we can address any area in the county, and I think part of the planning is targeting sexual victimization in line with what the center is doing. There are healthcare licenses now that require trauma. So we have occupational therapists in our office, and they're required to have a sign, so we have a sign. There's different requirements as far as where they're placed. And what the definition of trickiness is, and also the enforcement, the lack of enforcement. More credit and compliance, and that includes the license. So there's obviously some things legal to look into. Sharing. I'm sorry, of course you can, Maddie. What did you want to add?
I just wanted to get to the key part of the table and say that you talked about that original conversation about the possibility of having a campaign targeted men, women, men, the part sex, because that's, you know, there's so much international human rights work obligations that you start happening in sex exploitation. And the cases are brilliant. They are about enabling victims to reach out. We also want to do preventive work, I think. We want to stop people from violence. And I know that that's like that part of the protocol, because the wording is going to come up. It's slightly outside the scope, but we did have a discussion about whether or not we should keep that conversation open about it. But I think it's clear and where the reduction is.
I think that's a good idea. Can you move that to one of the subcommittees? Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things that came up, I don't think anyone on Zoom can hear what's being said. So to make sure you guys are able to understand too, there's been a couple of suggestions. One thing that Maddie was saying is the idea that this campaign that's in front of us is very specific and important, but she was also saying it's important to think about targeting people who are the perpetrators of human trafficking. And so that would have a different, you know, look at the very least if we're talking about a poster or some type of prevention or awareness, more targeting, the perpetrators. And so she would like to try to have that as part of an ongoing discussion of what else beyond this poster can, you know, this group can think about and the center can think about doing. And so, Robert, you're saying maybe putting that into the work of the Prevention and Awareness Subcommittee?
I think it would be under that and the training effort, an awareness effort. So, you know, I'm sure you have some perpetrators out there that aren't even, obviously it's a moment, but it's an adult who's being trafficked, how they can recognize signs and understand the legal consequences, social consequences, although you may not affect them at all, but some education is critical in the prevention effort. So,
does anyone want to set a subcommittee meeting between now and then our next advisory meeting, or we want to, I don't know.
I think it would be useful to first really know what the statute says and what the parameters are. So we could get that kind of information. And bounce off of that, you know, just so we know exactly what we can and can't do with the current one. And then off of that, from that point, does that make sense?
Okay.
So if our lawyer could possibly get that for us?
Something beyond what she was saying she's already got to research? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think the discussion is that we'll just kind of keep this broader part of the human trafficking awareness prevention work discussion going, but we'll kind of focus more right now on the current ordinance and poster and wait to kind of get that resolved and then maybe move on to other aspects of a prevention campaign. Does that sound right? Is that? Yeah.
And as we move forward, we have some new community ambassadors who are willing to help. So we can definitely, you know, if we have dates or anything specific for that, you know, I can make sure they get that invite and can be here to kind of get their younger brains burning.
Sometimes it can be hard, you know, there's medicine that require things rather than put things like that where they're required or mandated or parts of it. Their counselors, sharing other students that comes out other ways to inform discussions with them.
This is one of the campaigns years ago when we started the and it was around like a 3-strike thing for prostitution.
Oh, remember Sadie Darnell when she was a captain at GPD or something was,
really,
she kind of headed that up.
There was involvement there. Our Chabon office was doing the jobs could be to impact all type of things or training. Maybe there could be, I don't know, that some of the parties which know too, if that's still happening, and maybe that would be an outlet for us to share.
Is it a group?
I think they look at like a lot of keywords of John would think of that as, you know, prostitution, as there's nothing illegal to protecting people, instead of realizing this aspect that people are being trafficked.
One could be taking from that, something that might be beneficial with something that can be actually ordinance. Maybe you're talking about men versus the time.
Right.
Requirement could be that they go to some type of structure training.
And
or actually review it,
Yeah,
do something online, if they sign in, and they have to be sign it, they, you know, and for the people that are running the businesses. I think there are some people who don't have a plan getting into being a trafficker. They end up doing it, and then it fails, and then they know that they can take people and bully and criminalize.
right.
But the more education and information you can get people up front, and it's just personally having the thought or whether they're not doing anything wrong, and then they start trafficking.
I did talk with Ordinance or codes about that. One of the things, there's a lot I know you all can't hear, and I'm so sorry. I wish there was a better way to let everybody hear, but.
What if we all have a laptop and we all do that? We need the new teachers.
Oh.
Not if the teachers don't use.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
That would be so much better because then everyone could hear.
Yeah. So I know if we had or some better system.
If the state allows that, then I don't know. I mean, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the face-to-face forum, but then we have direct communication.
Yeah. Well, we're thinking through a lot of ideas. One is maybe everybody brings a laptop when they come to the meeting, so they can be heard, so everybody can hear them. But one of the I know, but it's much smaller. So yeah, we're just talking about that idea of if let's say a massage parlor, the current ordinance as is, if a massage parlor violates, the first time offense could be a training course with the Victim Services and Rape Crisis Center that we would offer it like quarterly or something, and any violations in that quarter, they would have the opportunity to come and go through training. So it could be more of that opportunity to just really drive it home why we're doing this and what you know, the concerns are and why this is important and what to be looking for.
Who would attend that training? Would it be just the owner of the building, their employees, or what?
I know, that's a good question. If it's, yeah, it could get tough to, I don't know how codes would handle that. I mean, we would accommodate if it was the full house or, you know, on our end, in terms of victim services providing the training, we would welcome as many as needed or that could come. But yeah, I think that's a good point. It's probably going to be the owner, I would imagine, or I don't know, Courtney, if you had thought any more about that. We really just kind of scratched the surface in our discussion.
Yeah, I think we'd have to delve into that, and it might be that it's a requirement of the owner, but that we offer it to the employees. And also, I think the conversation we had, because I think we would be hard pressed to require this. I think it would be you receive a warning, and then maybe at your first offense, instead of receiving a fine, you could opt to do this training, and then we would have a little bit more leeway to say, do this training with your employees or your front-facing employees or something like that. But I think it would be if it was an option instead of receiving a fine.
Do we have any type of video or social media or anything already created in terms of training and or just informational for people to look at or use, or instead of coming in?
We don't have anything recorded, but we do have presentations that we've given on this topic and have, you know, PowerPoints and things like that.
It's obviously something that will have to be
Mm-hmm.
if it is considered to be created on, then developing program, however, one of the, who's gonna do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she just retired, but I know, she's like, that she's the leader in the field and just incredible. But yeah, I'll reach out to her. I'll see if she's still.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, like, already done.
Yep, program.
Yes.
And across the years, federal processes.
Frank Williams.
Okay.
All right. I guess I think staff report, anything you guys want to share with us? Besides what you already have.
Yeah, we have April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Oh, so we're moving on to staff reports. Are there any other comments or suggestions?
I guess I would hope it's for not done the confidential. So staff report, anything.
Well, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so we're, we're not going to do as many activities as we normally do, but the Start by Believing campaign, which we've taken part in before, and all of you have participated in some, in some aspects. Start by Believing campaign is going to be something we do, and yeah, it's actually, Commissioner Alford, that will be something probably through our, usual ways that we work with commission to see if the commission will sign on. I think last year, all the commissioners signed, basically it's like a certificate, I'm forgetting the term, but a proclamation, well, yeah, the proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, but there's a campaign called, yes, a pledge, thank you. But the Start by Believing campaign is just a commitment to believe survivors when they come forward. And so we had commissioners sign a pledge last year, and so that will be coming through, again for this April, as well as a proclamation.
I have a suggestion though. Because so many more people are watching county commission meetings since they're available on all these social media outlets, perhaps when the proclamation is signed, if someone wants to come do like a 2 or 3 minute awareness talk to the commission and to the public, I think that could easily get on the agenda.
Awesome.
I think
Great, yes. Mm-hmm.
Is there any appetite for that?
Oh, yeah. We have done that in the past. I think that's always a good idea. And it's probably will be a staff member, from the center, but certainly an advisory board member could be the one to accept the proclamation and speak at that point while at the meeting.
Good. Okay.
But yeah, that's it.
We want to committee report. We haven't been able to meet due to the virus and not having quorum. I think one of the first things we can do is once we get some of the legal stuff back, we can have the community education subcommittee and start identifying training for ordinance violators and Randy, do you want to hear anything from the state court or speakers? Or has that been put on hold as well?
But I think I want to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'm going to selection is very good to go. So very good that if Dr. Cola maybe by someone that we can do that. So we're working on whether we have a really successful
Oh, great.
So the town, trainer.
Oh, that meeting. Yes. I thought you were talking about another meeting.
No, that means, and so we're going to request data on the capacity statement. We also, another issue that others have not used it,
Yeah, maybe if you pause there, I'll relay a little bit. So we moved on to subcommittee reports, and Maddie Coy is giving an update on the subcommittee called the From Report to Court. Yes, From Report to Court Subcommittee. And her group has been doing some research on case attrition, essentially looking at cases that are reported to the Gainesville Police Department. And we're talking about sexual battery, sexual assault cases that are reported when an adult victim comes forward to report, and what happens to the case, and trying to track it and understand how many cases move forward from the law enforcement report to court, and then how many of those cases move forward from, you know, some kind of outcome resolution in court, or possibly are dropped. So it's a very involved research project, and they've started with 1 year of data at the Gainesville Police Department. They're going to continue with additional years. The Gainesville Police Department has agreed to participate, and the hope is that other local law enforcement agencies will also. And Maddie, they're kind of on hold right now with COVID and being able to get access to some of the data. But the project is certainly active, and she was just kind of telling us a little bit about doing interviews. So there's another aspect. One aspect is the data collection, but there's also interviews. And Maddie, if you want to continue with that.
Yeah, so we have a team of undergraduates working with us. One of them is the expert about justice, what needs to be done, and because the people will be anonymized, we won't share who we've spoken to, but lots of local experts in criminal health, anybody working directly with victims, probably that has a perspective on the justice. We're really grateful to Brittany and Laura for getting all of this too. Because we can, use now on the advisory council doctrines, because I know to get contacted here to involve in the project, because this is very much that would be super clear this Yeah, so I'm sure you were hoping that we also back it. So the team will be doing in March.
We'll have to come up with a better method for Zoom for March then. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody in the room ends up hearing the folks that are on Zoom just fine. It's just they can't hear you guys, and they probably can just pretty much hear me. So we'll work on that a little bit. But Maddie was also talking about, so part of the project is interviewing experts in the field and having an opportunity to hear from them about, things that they've experienced, the barriers possibly, as well as, the things that they feel are working well. So there's that part of the project that they're continuing with. And the researchers are planning at the March meeting to give a presentation with what they've learned so far. So she's thinking they'll do that through Zoom, because it's going to be her research partners that will be presenting it. So that will be easier. If anyone does have to join by Zoom, you'll be able to hear that presentation a little bit better. Oh, and then the one other thing you mentioned, so Lieutenant Finelli, Robert Finelli, we're about to have another Robert on the board. He was just assigned or appointed as an advisory council member. And so it gets a little complicated in terms of GPD's work with the subcommittee, because Lieutenant Finelli has been part of assisting the researchers with getting access to GPD and things like that. So because of this whole, members needing to be conscientious about having discussions outside of the advisory council meeting, Maddie was just saying her research partner was going to take the lead with contacts that would need to be made with Lieutenant Finelli moving forward, just to keep it all clean now that he's on the advisory council. Anything else, Maddie? I guess I did want to give Sheree an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you've been up to since our last meeting. Any questions that you wanted to ask the group, or ideas you have about your work as an intern?
Okay, yeah. Can everyone hear me online? I'll try to speak louder.
No, they did not.
So one of the things that I wanted to focus on as an intern was maybe working with the Sexual Assault Forensic Services Subcommittee. Some of the information talking about maybe gathering, we keep working with the working to extend training to in the area. So it does have a more state, but some of the research that I was geared towards trying to find a way to speak to other nurses in the area, how certification or maybe increasing within the emergency rooms and just nurses to want to do the program, or maybe the hospital to fund the program a little bit better. So I asked Sophie and Marianne, but if any of the board members have any recommendations as to how I can go about this, because it's a pretty broad topic. I don't really know where to start, but if you guys do have recommendations, love to hear them, how I can go about navigating that.
It just means that we don't have all those nurses that we used to have on our board anymore, but perhaps going through the state nurses to their directors.
Yeah, so from Laura gave me contact information to the nurses that is the majority of the things, but we have been coordinating, trying to speak to one another. But yeah, I'm reaching out to Julie, or I was going to speak to you as well. Get any ideas?
So I think those are great starts. Unfortunately, I think the bottom line is finance of the budget. It doesn't seem like they're offering their centers. With North Florida, they were dedicated to the green, but it wasn't the same. Was that you?
Yeah. I know during the renovation, they had said they were going to be able to designate one room for sexual assault exams at North Florida. But right, they don't currently have kind of the same program where they have some nurses that have attended a abbreviated SANE training, so they still aren't really probably in a position to be able to do that. No, I know that right before COVID hit, there was a training that was going to happen in Gainesville, and North Florida was going to send some of their nurses. And so, they seem to be more receptive at the time, but that's been a while ago. So I think it's a good idea to start back with just some contact with them and see where they're at, see if talking to individual nurses, I think is a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I think that could lead to something, you know, some other activities. But if anybody is open to speaking with Shri, because, you know, she's not a board member, so she can talk to you all one-on-one. And I know she found that helpful to talk with you, Marianne, a little bit. But if you guys.
Can we add Phyllis Craig to that list?
Oh, yeah, Phyllis would be a good person.
So Phyllis, and there's some planning on coming back to doing exams, but she's retired, and so she was one of our former senior nurses, and she did a lot of work on campus, and she was working at labs.
Yeah, she was a nurse at the U.S. Infirmary for years and did exams there.
So I think she would be a good person as far as like trying to connect outside services, because they're like, if they're like something that you want to do.
She would be a great training.
Yeah, and she's done some training with us in Union County.
We just need to pay her to train everybody. She's so wonderful. So right now we're talking about, we have an intern with us this semester, Shri Doshi, and some of you got to meet her last month. She's agreed to help the advisory council do some research. If you think of ideas, you know, feel free to send those to me, and I can, you know, share those with Shri. She has a public health background or interests as well as medical. So we have her doing some research on the sexual assault exam forensic services subcommittee. And she was just kind of inviting board members to share ideas with her or contact people if you know anyone that works in the medical field with any kind of specialization in the area of treating sexual assault survivors, that she's open to hearing from you. Oh, wait, Commissioner Alford, you're still on mute.
I understand that Florida has a 40-hour training for nurses to become certified as sexual assault examiners.
Yes, and it's usually offered for free a couple of times a year.
Is that the training that we're talking about, or are we talking about something less formal? It is that training. Okay.
Yes.
That's good. So any nurse could volunteer to take it. And
yes.
then be on call, like from their department if needed, you know.
Ideally, yes. The issue becomes, even when it's offered for free, because they have to take off for a week, a lot of times not all of our hospitals are willing to pay their nurses to go to the training, you know, so they have to take vacation time for a week to go to the training. So, but we did, like I think you might have heard last year, right before COVID, there was a training in Gainesville, which was great because there wouldn't be the travel, and it was free. And we did have, I forget how many, I don't remember off the top of my head, but several from North Florida and Shands, both that were planning on going. And of course, it got canceled. And they're just starting things back up. I did get a notice that the 40-hour training was starting back up. So hopefully we'll get some interest.
Well, I'm curious if it's an opportunity for the county to sponsor, to pay a nurse to go through training, if the need is that great. I'm just curious if that's something I could, you know, try to bring before the commission to try to be helpful. You know, if there's a bunch of nurses that want to take it, but right now I think there's nursing shortage. So,
well, let Shri and I can do some research to find out what the status is currently with our local hospitals, and we can report back on that.
Yeah, like just an idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, is there any agency providing over the hospital that could require them or give them some type of incentive Yeah, but I'm wondering,
But that is something to think about. But the usually national work.
if it's necessary, the hospitals that are doing it, there needs to be protocol. You know, so this hospital is doing it this way, this hospital wants to sample it in another way, but I don't know, I'm just thinking, and I don't know if it can, I don't imagine it could just be accounting for the reason for the disease to be like you said, I love them as well. So, I don't know.
Right? I mean, if you think about CPT that does all of the exams for children, I think that they allow CPT to train within, you know, and I mean, they've got such a robust nursing staff and medical staff, I'm sure they can. You know, CPT is the child protection team and they do all of the medical exams on children. But yeah, it would be interesting to talk with them.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
it may be having to go to the state and Department of Health. With, if they have some requirements or how could we get that started or somebody at that level
Mm-hmm.
to be able to support a movement like that. And, you know, you use the word once, but I thought it was perfect. The cause change means create what? It's more like a language, it's not controversy or advocacy. Yeah, it's very sometimes change sometimes because friction or conflict or it's something, you know, all remember is walking home. And so, okay.
Okay, you know what? I just noticed we're at 7:07.
Any final announcements?
Any announcements? No, looks like we're good.
Well, you just announced the time, that's all I want to know. We need to turn these.
Oh, yes, please.
So we go for you. And then I move to adjourn.
I think Rita already moved. Will you second? Okay, we've had a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for your patience, and Zahira, welcome to the advisory council and to co-chair.
Thanks.
Oh, people want to wave at you.
They're waving back.
I'll be there next month. Oh, I wanted to say real quick, I did a little like learning pod in my house with homeschool kids and with multiple people on Zoom. If you're farther away than you are and everyone has headphones on laptops, you should be able to do it without too much feedback for next time if we don't have everyone there. That's what worked the best with a lot of people in the same room.
Yeah, Laura, we could talk to IT too and see if they've got any solutions.
Maybe a microphone, right, to plug into the laptop.
Ah, yes. Okay, very good. We'll work on that for next time too. Thanks you all. Have a good night. Be safe. Bye-bye.